Hey, it's Professor Gould, and in these lectures we're going to talk about meiosis, which is the other process of cellular reproduction or creating new cells. Now remember we already talked about mitosis, which happens in the somatic cells. Those are the cells that make up most of the body. Not all the cells in your body do mitosis, but most of them do. And these are going to make new cells to create new tissue, to replace worn out tissue, to replace like skin cells that have worn away. That's all going to happen by mitosis. Remember, mitosis is the process where we take one cell, we make an exact duplicate of it, so we end up with two cells that have exactly the same DNA. Those cells, all your somatic cells in a human, have 46 chromosomes in 23 pairs. And we can actually take a picture of them. We can stain the molecules that make up the chromosomes and remove all the chromosomes from one nucleus during mitosis, line them up and take a picture of them. That's called a karyotype. Karyo means chromosome, so this is a picture of the chromosomes. And you can see there's two chromosomes, number 1, two number 2, two number 3, two number 4, two number 5. And each chromosome in the pair is going to have the same genes on it. So let's say that the chromosome number 7 has the gene for whether you have crumbly or sticky earwax, which is actually a genetic trait. You're going to have two copies of that gene, one on one of the 7s, one on the other 7. Okay, and we'll come back to that when we do genetics and inheritance. We call the pair of chromosomes homologous chromosomes, and we call them a homologous pair. Okay, so homo means same. So because they have the same genes on them, they're two copies of the same chromosome. So you have all 22 perfectly matched homologous pairs, and then we have this one pair of sex chromosomes, which in a normal human female has two copies of the X chromosome, and in a normal human male has one X and one Y. Stay tuned for our next set of lectures. We're going to talk about sex and gender, and we're going to find out that there's a lot of abnormal, or there's a lot of different ways that people can be genetically not exactly normally male or normally female, and by normal I literally mean average. Okay, there are lots of perfectly natural ways for people to be intersex. That is an actual third sex that happens. Stay tuned for that. Okay, so we have 23 homologous pairs. So even though in the male the X and Y are different, we still call them a homologous pair because they pair up together. All right, so in mitosis, we took these chromosomes, and you notice each of these is a pair of chromatids. Remember, those are the strands of DNA held together at the centromere. We separated those chromatids into separate cells. Now, in meiosis, we're going to go from a cell that has 46 chromosomes, a homologous pair for each of 23. We're going to go to a cell that has only one of each pair. What? Okay. So the two chromosomes are homologous. They have the same genes. They might have different alleles of that gene. And just hang on to that thought. An allele is just the form of a gene. So if it's gene for hair color, you might have one blonde allele and one brown allele. Okay, that's what that means. The chromosome is the pair of sister chromatids held together at the centromere, and that's because the only way we can take a picture of these is during mitosis, because that's when the chromosomes are condensed. Otherwise, remember, they're just like, yeah, spaghetti. So during mitosis, when they're condensed, we can actually take a picture of them. So this one, as you can see, is a genetic male. It has an X and a Y. This is the way sex is determined in humans, in mammals. In birds, the female actually has two different chromosomes. We call it Z and W. The male is ZZ, the female is ZW. In some insects, the female is XX and the male is X, and then what we call O, which means there's no second chromosome. So rather than there being a chromosome that infers maleness, which is what the Y is in mammals, in some insects, just not having a second thing confers maleness. And then in other organisms, such as many lizards and crocodiles, sex is not actually determined genetically. It's determined by the temperature at which the eggs develop. Nature, man. So freaking complex. All right, so these are called the sex chromosomes. All the others are called the autosomes, or autosomal chromosomes, meaning they make the body of the self. Okay? So what we're going to do in meiosis is we're going to take these cells with these 23 pairs of chromosomes. We're going to separate those 23 pairs to create either an egg or a sperm, depending on male or female. And each of those is going to have 23 chromosomes. And then if those egg and sperm fuse, we call that fertilization, that creates a new cell with 46 chromosomes. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next section.